Hello, I'm Jerry Lewis and I'm chairman of the Dunkirk Little Ships Restoration Trust. I'd like to tell you the story of the remarkable Dunkirk Little Ship Challenge. She's a steam tug built during the Great Depression of 1931. She was based at Gravesend in the Thames estuary, but her work meant that she steamed as far as Scotland, Belgium, France, and most ports on the south coast of England. At the end of May 1940, along with an armada of little ships, played Operation Dynamo to rescue troops cut off around Dunkirk by the German army. This resulted in 338,000 British and Allied troops being Mole and the beaches as against the original Admiralty estimate of only 45,000. This ensured that Britain could continue to fight and eventually win the war. As Churchill said, a miracle of deliverance. In 1942, she helped to tow the massive Maunsell anti-aircraft forts into the Thames estuary. She was then equipped with a flying bridge and an Oerlikon cannon similar to the one shown. Later jobs included towing parts of the Mulberry Harbour, which ensured the success of the D-Day landings. At the end of the war, she went back to her routine towing jobs and was converted from coal firing to oil. The London docks at the time were in a state of decline due to labour disputes and the introduction of cargo containers. By 1974, she was the last steam tug on the Thames, and she was due to be scrapped. But instead, she was sold to St Catherine Yacht Haven to be a part of their exhibition, and there she spent the next 19 years. Sadly, by 1993, she was about to be scrapped for a second time, but the newly formed Dunkirk Little Ships Restoration Trust intervened, and thanks to Tilbury Docks' generosity, Challenge was moved there and restoration commenced. In 1995, the boiler was fired and she moved under her own steam for the first time in 21 years. But very many problems remained, one of which being that she had not been on a slip for 30 years and major plate work was needed to the hull. Thanks to the Heritage Lottery Fund, which offered us a 55% grant, Challenge was moved to Husband's shipyard at Marchwood near Southampton. There, replating, removing asbestos, blasting, repainting and a mountain of other jobs were carried out by a large team of volunteers. Finally, in October 2003, she steamed away to start a very busy period of visits, commencing with the London International Boat Show, the Dordrecht Steam Festival, Liverpool, Brest and Bristol. In 2005, she took part in a commemorative cruise to Dunkirk and then to Southampton and Portsmouth for the Royal Review of the Fleet and the Festival of the Sea. During the various voyages, it became obvious that the boiler, after 75 years, was coming to the end of its working life. The costs of this, together with the associated work, is very significant. But once again, this required funding from the Heritage Lottery Fund. But this would only be granted if we could show that Challenge had a sustainable future. We sourced a British manufacturer who could produce a modern, efficient boiler which met all the environmental requirements and also produced an activity plan to meet the needs of the HLF. In March 2012, the grant of just over 900,000 was approved, leaving the Trust to find 100,000. The work began in Shoreham with a completion date of February 2013, following which she will be running trials. In May, she will then return to Southampton, where she will be based together with other historic ships and our training workshop, which houses another Dunkirk little ship, Dorian.
The rescue of over 300,000 of our troops from northern France is one of the great maritime achievements of Britain, in my view. It ranks alongside the Armada and Trafalgar for daring do, for courage, for originality, for inspiration. And it's very important that people remember it, not just now, 70 years after, but in another 100 years. So the restoration of one of those boats that took part, this tug, the Challenge, is a very important part of that memory. The idea of keeping alive the spirit of Dunkirk, of being able to show people round this tug and explain to them exactly the role that it and many other boats played in Dunkirk, I think is a very, very valuable history lesson. But it's also, of course, wonderfully enjoyable to see an old boat coming back to life, new boilers, a lot of work being done on the hull, and to see it back at sea again will be a great achievement, and I hope it goes across to Dunkirk this year.
In future, Challenge will be working with other historic vessels in Southampton and elsewhere, and will include visits to many ports around the coast, taking the heritage to the people.